Welcome, welcome. I can guess why you're here. You're probably here because maybe sometimes you feel at the end of the day, no matter how busy your day was, that you haven't really accomplished much. Maybe you feel that you're constantly running after time, that no matter how much time you have, something always seems to fall through the cracks, that one of these balls that you're juggling in the air seems to fall down and crash on the floor. I get it. I'm a work from home mom with a busy family life, busy social life, and I'm growing my business online. And over the years, I've learned some tips and tools and ideas that have helped me become more productive, more focused, and more intentional with how I use my time, specifically with being present as a mom with my child and also focusing on growing my business. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips that have helped me really stay on track and accomplish the things that I want to accomplish with my business and also with projects in my personal life as well. But before we get there, I just wanted to give you a bit of background on me and what got me to this point. For 15 years, I worked in a corporate office. I had a desk job, a bit of travel, but mostly I had normal office hours. If you've ever worked in an office before, if you're still working in an office, generally speaking, you have a certain start time, you have an end time, your KPIs are given to you, your objectives are given to you. You are held accountable by your manager, by your team members, things in the corporate world. And again, I'm generalizing here. Of course, there's an exception to every rule, but generally speaking, things in the corporate world are kind of cut out for you, especially in the early years when you start working, so you're not setting your own agenda. And for this reason, when I moved from working in an office to working at home, honestly, I started out with this arrogance, like I got this. I've been working for 15 years in the corporate world. I know what it's like. I can organize my time, I can set my strategy and follow the plan and get things done, and also be present with my child and take care of my household and build a stronger relationship with my husband, and take care of my friends and invite people over and go out, do all of the things. And over the years, of course, you start learning things, and what I noticed quickly is that suddenly you're your own boss. Suddenly your working hours are very fluid, and suddenly you're cooking while you're working on your laptop, which in the past you didn't need to do, although you were a mom, but you somehow made that work. You would cook at night, you would cook early in the morning, but when I was working from home, it just felt super urgent and super important for me to stop what I'm doing or to pretend like I'm still doing what I'm doing with my laptop next to the stove. But suddenly I had to work on making the most delicious meal for my family. So in this video, I want to share with you 5 tips that have really helped me. And none of the things that I'm sharing are things you've never heard of before. Nothing is groundbreaking, but sometimes hearing this information again helps us, remember the importance of staying organized and planning our days. And also, even if you know this already, and even if you are doing it, maybe you're off track a little bit and you need to be reminded to get back on track. So let's begin with tip number 1. Tip number 1 is please use a calendar or a planner or whatever you would like to get all of these thoughts out of your beautiful head and onto paper. Because let's be honest, with everything that we're thinking about as moms, our memories are not going to serve us very well. We cannot keep track of things just with our memories, honestly. There's so much going on in our lives, and sometimes we fall for this. This is something that used to happen to me. Like, I would remember something in the middle of the night, or I would remember something as I'm driving, and I'm like, oh, thank God I remembered it, because that means I'm going to remember it on the day that I need to remember it, or I'll remember it tomorrow. But the truth is, life happens, and kids happen, and lots of things happen. Your phone rings and there's social media and there's these invitations that you need, there's a lot going on and you forget the important things. That's why really putting pen to paper, that's how I like it. But you can use a digital calendar, you can use apps. There's amazing productivity apps that keep track of what you need to do and by when. There's so many different ways to do it. So it doesn't matter what you choose and what works best for you, as long as you keep a calendar and plan your days out before they even start. One thing that I always say to my clients is, don't just say, oh, I'll work on it this week. That doesn't work. What day of the week, what time of the week, and where? Now, I know as moms, you can't always predict. Sometimes your baby's nap starts changing. Sometimes your kid is sick and can't be sent to school or to summer camp. I get it. But generally speaking, if we keep track of the things that we need to get done every single day, when we're going to do them and where we're going to do them, we're so much more likely to actually accomplish these things. So with tip number one, the first thing you got to do is go out and buy a planner, an agenda, or start using your online calendar. Tip number two is set your priorities and say no to everything else. I know this is easier said than done. I really, really do. But when everything is important and everything is a priority, honestly, nothing gets done. Or whatever gets done is the thing that's right in front of you right now, that seems and feels like it's very urgent. Now, looking at the calendar and your planner and looking at all of the things that you need to accomplish this week, let's say, it's easy to think that all of these things are just as important. But the truth is, there has to be a certain set of priorities that no matter what, you have to stick to them. So dropping off your kids to school, you don't have a choice. I mean, somehow we all make it out of the house on time to drop off our kids, at least 99% of the time. It's a non-negotiable. Working out, if that's something that's important to you, that's a non-negotiable. When it's in your calendar and it's set as a priority, it's a non-negotiable. Anything that comes up at that time that you're planning to, when you're planning to work out, that does not align with it, you can simply say no to. Setting the priorities helps us make sure that our business is on that list of priorities, because I'm speaking from experience here. When I started working from home and with my daughter being there, you know, she was starting to walk and she was starting to talk and all of these fun things were happening, and there was this like sense of freedom also, that I'm no longer in the office 5 days a week after 15 years of doing that. And I would always find reasons not to get to work, to have a coffee with someone or do something around the house or declutter my closet, which had needed decluttering for years, but all of a sudden it became super important. When I learned to set my priorities, even when that feeling came, even when that idea popped into my mind, I should declutter my closet, I would look back on my calendar and my priorities and say, no, today is the day for creating content. Today is the day for reaching out to clients. Today is the day that, you know, I take care of my daughter's birthday party planning, whatever it is. So set the priorities and stick with them. Tip number three is set working hours. Again, I know it's not possible for everyone, and it depends on the ages of your kids and the season in your life and whatever's going on in your life. But what happens if we don't set working hours? I can tell you from experience, what used to happen with me is I was literally working all day long. Whenever I found 5 minutes, I'd open my laptop and start doing something here and then get interrupted by life. And I would stop and then work on it again for 10 minutes here and 5 minutes there. And I was all over the place. I would respond to messages and emails even when I was with my daughter at the park. I would be replying to social media messages while I was spending quality time with my husband. I was constantly having this need to feel productive. But the truth is, when our efforts are scattered in the way that I just described to you, we're not really being productive. Maybe we're busy, yes, and maybe we are moving, but movement does not always mean progress. So when you set working hours, even if it's just, you know, knowing that for 2 hours my child naps, or for 5 hours my kid's at school, or I can ask for help and get someone in to look after my kid, or, you know, ask the nanny to play with the kid for 2-3 hours while I work. Knowing that these are my working hours and that there's a limited amount and window of time in which I can accomplish what I need to accomplish, somehow made me much more productive. There's actually a law called Parkinson's law, and what it states is that any project that you work on will take the amount of time that you decide to give to it. So if there's a project that's due on Sunday, somehow the minute you finish it will probably be Saturday evening or Sunday morning. But if you set the date for the previous Thursday or Wednesday, you also tend to, 90% of the time, I would imagine, stick to that deadline and actually deliver the work on time. I remember when I gave birth to my daughter and I went back to the office about 3 months later, I was still breastfeeding. So part of the law in Dubai at the time was that you could leave the office at 4 in the afternoon, so 2 hours earlier, maternity leave, I don't know what they called it, breastfeeding hour, something. And I was so worried about that because before I had my child, up until I was 9 months pregnant with her, I was working at the office and I never finished on time. I was always one of those who left at 7 or 8. You know, I was trying to keep up with all the guys at the office and I was trying to prove myself, and I had so much work and I felt like it couldn't be accomplished in the normal amount of time given to me at the office. But when I had my daughter and I had this reason to leave exactly at 4, because you know what it's like when you miss them so much and you just want to be home, and I just had to finish my work. Somehow everything was accomplished and finished on time. My work didn't suffer, the quality of what I delivered didn't suffer. It was just that I focused and I knew what I was doing. So setting working hours for yourself and setting a specific time to work on a specific project is very, very helpful. Tip number 4, and if you've been following me for any amount of time, you must have heard me talk about the importance of this tip, and it's having a very healthy morning routine. And that for me includes waking up before the kids. I know again that it's not possible for everyone, and that maybe you stayed up all night breastfeeding your child, so that does not apply to you. But still, if you can't wake up before your kids for any reason whatsoever, I recommend it to anyone who can. And I know you're going to be tired, but you can watch some previous videos and learn the tips that helped me wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. But even if that's not possible for you, here's something that Mel Robbins said that I truly believe in and agree with. It's not about when you wake up, it's about how you wake up. Because you must know this, when you wake up and you're rushed and you start running and serving and doing and on social media and listening to the news and getting this kid ready and all of these things, your whole day gets affected by it. Your mood, your productivity, your energy in general. Versus waking up with your own plan and intentions for the day. Deciding how your morning is going to start from the night before has honestly been the most life-changing, really, things that happened for me personally and for my business. I started feeling like I am ahead of my day. My day doesn't rule me, I rule my day. Because I would wake up, for me, before my daughter, do some breathing, do some meditation, spend some time with myself. Sometimes I would journal, sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I would just sit and stare at the ceiling and just feel good that nobody's asking me for anything and nobody's requesting anything and my phone's not about to ring. It's just me, myself, and I with my thoughts in my space. So what you do with this time is entirely up to you, but honestly, I cannot stress this enough. Create a healthy morning routine and stick to it every single day, and you'll notice how much better your mood and your energy is throughout the day. Tip number 5 is find what works for you and get rid of all the rest. You heard from me today 4 of my favorite tips that have helped me in this season of my life, with the ages of my kids currently, with my life. These work for me and have worked with some of the women that I work with, but they might not work for you. Maybe you've watched videos or read books about productivity and accomplishing things and, you know, setting goals and actually keeping promises to ourselves. That's all useful information. But at the end of the day, everyone's different. There is no one size fits all that works for everyone. So find what works for you. Listen, try things out, and then choose what works and drop the rest and don't feel bad about it. How do you do it all? That's a question that I get often from the moms that I work with or people in my audience. And honestly, my answer is always the same, and it's not original. I have no idea who said it first, but she's a genius, or he's a genius, but she's probably a she. I do it all, just not all the time. It's not possible to do everything perfectly again, all the time. So choose what's important. And if growing your business is important to you, then please set that on your priority list. If you focus on it and if you give it the time that it needs to grow, I promise you there's absolutely no reason for it not to. I believe in you and I know that you can do it, and I hope these tips have helped you today. I'd love to hear from you, so let me know through an email or by reposting this video and tagging Inside Out with Muna, whatever way you choose to share with me your feedback from this episode. Please let me know, and I'll see you again in a future video.